In Google Earth, you can describe the locations of places on the Earth or navigate to them in several basic ways, with a place name, with a street address, or with coordinates. Google Earth allows you to work with three specific coordinate systems: latitude and longitude, Universal Transverse Mercator or UTM, and the Military Grid Reference System or MGRS. I'm going to focus on latitude and longitude and UTM in this tutorial. By default, Google Earth shows you coordinates of locations in latitude and longitude. This is displayed in the lower right of your screen. The numbers indicate the geographic coordinates underneath your cursor. You can visualize this system by displaying the graticule or grid of latitude lines or parallels and longitude lines or meridians. Under the View menu, select Grid. We should see some familiar reference lines such as the equator and the tropics. If we rotate the Earth to the east, we can also see the prime meridian. Latitude indicates our position north or south of the equator. Longitude indicates our position east or west of the prime meridian. Notice that latitude values are positive in the northern hemisphere and negative in the southern hemisphere. Longitude values are negative in the western hemisphere and positive in the eastern hemisphere. Let's gather the latitude and longitude coordinates of a specific location. Let's go for the White House in Washington, D.C. I'm going to turn off the grid for a second, and I'm just going to type in White House. By positioning your cursor over that target, you can see the coordinates displayed in the lower right corner. The problem is, if you move your cursor, the coordinates change, and they're very sensitive to small movements because degrees of latitude and longitude are relatively large units. However, if we lay down a place mark, the place mark will show us the specific coordinates of the center of our screen where we last navigated to, and we can record these coordinates and use them later to go back to that exact same location. These units here are in decimal degrees. Let's record these and return to this location. So we've recorded the coordinates for the White House, and we want to navigate right back to that location using just those numbers. So I'm going to type in first the latitude, and then the longitude. Notice that the longitude is a negative number, which is important because otherwise you could end up in the wrong hemisphere. So once we've typed in, we just hit search. And we end up right back in the same location. Latitude and longitude values can also be expressed in terms of degrees, minutes, and seconds, or DMS. The big difference with decimal degrees is that the DMS system, you have units of degrees, minutes, and seconds. So let's look at the White House again. We always start out in decimal degrees by default in Google Earth. In order to change the coordinate system display, we go to the Tools menu, Options, and then choose the coordinate system of interest. Here we're going to switch from decimal degrees to degrees, minutes, and seconds, and simply hit OK. When I hover my cursor over the White House, you can see the new coordinates in the lower right. Again, I'm going to add a place mark so I can read those coordinates more easily. You'll notice that these numbers now have different punctuation on them. We have 38 degrees, 53 minutes, and 51.63 seconds north for the latitude, and 77 degrees, 2 minutes, and 11.51 seconds west for the longitude. So you can already see the difference from the decimal degrees, even though we're describing the same location. In this case, the hemispheres are indicated by N or S, depending on the whether you're north or south of the equator, and for your longitude, E or W to indicate whether you're east or west of the prime meridian. We can again record these coordinates so that we can input them and go directly back to this location. So now we've recorded the coordinates for the White House in terms of degrees, minutes, and seconds of latitude and longitude, and we want to navigate back to that location using those same coordinates. So I'm going to type those in, but I don't need to put on all the punctuation that we had before. In particular, I don't need the degree symbol. but I will need the minute symbol. So I'm typing in 38 and then space, 53 and then a single quote to indicate minutes, 51.63 quote, double quote for seconds, space, and to indicate the hemisphere, space, 77, space, 2 minutes, 11.51 seconds, and west. So now I can hit search. And we're back to our exact location. Notice that I had switched the system to display degrees, minutes, and seconds, but actually it doesn't matter what current coordinate system you're displaying. If you type in the coordinates correctly, you will navigate to the correct location. Finally, there is the Universal Transverse Mercator, or UTM coordinate system. The UTM system is a little different from latitude and longitude. Let me lay over the grid for the UTM and also switch it. So I'm going to the Tools, Options menu. I'm going to switch to Universal Transverse Mercator. And then I'm also going to go to the View menu and add the grid so we can see what this looks like. In the UTM system, the Earth is carved into 60 different longitudinal zones. So if we look at the East Coast, for example, we can see that part of the East Coast is in Zone 19. At the same time, you'll see these letters, if you can see that S right there. There we go. So this S indicates a latitudinal zone, and the number indicates a longitudinal zone. Within each zone, you have a numbering system that works in terms of eastings and northings. Essentially, we're describing positions in terms of their position east of an origin and north of, so kind of moving to the right and then up. So let's look at how this numbering system works with the White House again. The White House location in terms of UTM is described again in terms of its zonal position, its latitudinal band, and then its easting and northing, which again we see in the lower right. But let's add a place mark so we can look more closely at those coordinates. We can see that the White House is in Zone 18S. Its easting is 323,391.65 meters east of an origin and 4,307,393.06 meters north of the origin. The origin isn't terribly important, but if you're curious, that puts it about 4 million meters north of the equator, essentially, is where that origin is. So we want to record these coordinates and we want to navigate back to this location using the UTM system. In order to navigate directly to a UTM coordinates, you need to type in the numbers in a very particular way. First, we're going to type in the coordinates we recorded for the White House, which includes the zone number, and then the latitudinal band, which is a letter. And notice there's no space. Now we put a space and then we type in the easting value, which is 323,391.58, and then space, and then the northing value, 4307392.92. And that's all we need. The zone and band, the easting and northing, and then we can hit search. And there you have how to navigate and record latitude and longitude in decimal degrees and degrees minute second format, and also using the UTM coordinate system.